Hi everyone, it's Laura from Grain & Company, and today I'm here for January's Creative Maker Box. Hope you all had a nice Christmas and New Year's, and so yeah, let's get started on this one. So in this box you will have your back piece, 2 stand pieces, front piece, 3 hearts that will go with 2 stencils, and I did forget a piece of the store, so you'll also have a little tiny heart that will go up at the top, but I forgot mine, so but that's okay, we can still do this with the video, and you can just add it on after. So I'm gonna get started with staining first. So I stain front and back of this, we stain the stands, and we also stain the front part of this. If you want it more solid and just white, then you don't have to stain it, but I kind of do a bit of dry brushing, so that way you'll want the stain to kind of peek through. So that's what I've done. So you can grab your gloves, grab some paper towel. I'm out of my blue stuff, so I'm just using regular kitchen stuff just because I forgot mine at the store. So I'm just gonna grab my stain here. And we can get started. Okay, so give it a dip. And you can start to wipe. So once that side's done, you can give it a wipe. There. Now I'm going to flip this over. Usually I do the back side first, but I forgot to flip it. So as long as you don't have a puddle of stain underneath this, you'll be fine. But most of it is getting covered up with the front of the snowman, so you should be fine. As you can see, a little does go a long way. That was just one dip of my brush on the back. And yeah, just wipe it back. All right, flip it over, make sure it's all even, and then just set that one off to the side. And then you can bring this one in. And this one we're just doing the front because we've got the sticky on the back. Okay, give that a wipe. You don't want to put it on too heavy because you don't want that underlayer to be that dark, so try not to go over it more than once. Set that one there, and really you just need to do the top on one and the bottom on the other, just because you'll be stacking those. Okay, and then the back side. Okay, so that part is done, and we're going to let that dry. Technically, we could wait to do the white when we're dry brushing, but because the hearts are going to take a few layers of white, I'm going to start now. So I'm just going to go pause my video and wash my brush, and then I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back now. So I'm going to grab my hearts. So we've got 3 hearts here. This heart will be painted oakum, which is the brown. So I'm just gonna leave that one for a little bit. And these ones will eventually have a stencil over top. So these both are white, and then after after we'll add the color to them. So you can either paint these with a brush or you can paint them with your sponge. I'm just going to use my sponge today because I don't feel like washing a brush. So do it however you would like. And if you want to change up your heart colors, I just did them because that way it can kind of go with our Valentine's colors. And you could still keep it up a little bit longer for winter because of the type of project that it is. So you can choose to change that if you like. I'm just going to use the inside of my lid here because it's got lots of paint. And it's also got it all over my hands. But yeah, so we're just doing the one side here. So I'm just going to proceed to cover them both. I'm not blotting any off because I got so much extra area here. I can just come in here and use that all up. I'm just not starting close to the edge, so it's all going over the side. Okay, that's the first one. Blend that a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so I'm not even gonna wipe the edges. It's fine. I don't put a lot of paint on, so just a slight dusting of color, and I'm okay with that. So while that's waiting to dry, I'm just gonna grab my tape and tape off the back of this one and do this one at the same time. So if you've got a spare sponge, you can grab that one. If not, you can wait till you're done with your whites and then you can move on to your other ones. Or you can wait till, like you could wait to do this color after when we're doing the brown stripe up here, but we have to paint this white still. So it's, you know, whatever you want to do, whatever order you want to do. I'm just trying to pass some time right now, so we're gonna do this one. Okay. Brown will probably take 3 coats just because it's what's considered a clear base color. So it just takes sometimes 3 to get a nice even distribution of color. This one I'm going to remove all that extra paint because I don't want it to go down the edge of my template. Okay, so I'm gonna put that off to the side, and my hearts are already dry, so I'm gonna come back, give them a sand. Now you could stain the back of these if you want. I mean, you could paint them too if you have enough paint. You're just not gonna see them when they're layered on the project, but you can do what you would like. Okay, so paint them again. Whoops. see me painting up and down one way and side to side on the other. It all depends on the direction of the grain, so that's why I'm doing one way and one the other. Okay, so that's 2. I will, like I said, I'll probably do 3 on that one. This one is already dry already, so if you do those light layers, then you definitely can move pretty quickly. All right. So far that looks good, and I might be able to get away with 2, we'll see. I can usually put a bit more on my sponge doing a solid piece than I can with the ones with the template, so this one might need 3, that one might not, but we'll evaluate after it's dry. That one is good for now. I just want to get these ones out of the way because by the time I'm done that, then I should be able to dry brush the front of my snowman. So I'm just going to come in here. Now this is almost dry, but it's smooth enough for me, so I'm not going to sand it right now. Try and push this in my lid. Go. So I'm just going to do one more coat and then I'm going to leave it. And I'll sand it after again. Okay, I think that one's fine, so I'll set it over there. Okay, that one's done too. Okay, so I'm setting that one there, and let's check my chocolate one. So my chocolate one looks, for the most part, looks good, just a little on the edge, but I've just tapped that in, and I'm not even gonna sand, I'm gonna let it dry. I want that color to hold, so I'll sand it just prior to putting it on our kit, or on our project. This one, I'm not gonna sand, it's smooth enough, but I'm just gonna quickly run a last coat over top, and then it will be done. Okay, so that one's done too. So now we can put all these pieces away. Okay, so now, so normally, okay, make sure this is free of any paint, just so it doesn't transfer in any way. Okay, I'm gonna flip this in. I just want a cleaner spot, so when I'm removing that excess paint, for dry brushing, it's not gonna go on my stuff. Okay, let me dry brush. So you can use whatever brush you would like. I'm gonna start with this one. This is the 2-inch brush that you'll have from your free brushes. And I'm not gonna sand it right now because I want that texture from the rays of the grain to help in the dry brushing. So I'm just gonna load some paint, and then I'm gonna take it all off, and then I'm gonna gently get my hand moving as I approach the board, and I'm just going to gently start adding paint. just gonna put more in here. Okay. Now as you start dry brushing, and if you have a bit more control with it, you can always add a little bit more paint, but you really want to make sure you're just adding enough that you're not getting a solid finish. So sometimes I don't take mine off as much as I say for you guys to do, just because I do this enough. So you can turn the brush and go full way, but you can also turn it sideways and just pull it that way. So you're only using the thin direction, and sometimes you can have a bit better control as to what it's doing. So you can do a little bit of each. This project isn't that big, so you could have always used, you could also use like the 1-inch brush, but so whatever you choose. Just don't put a lot of pressure, because you want to have that, those wispy marks. And then you can start building up however much you want. Remember, it's easier to add than it is to take away. So now I'm coming at it the other way, because you can see one direction I tend to hit it harder one side than the other. So just to try and keep that even, I always turn it around and come back at it in a different direction. So if my inner's a little heavy, then I'm going to start pulling on the edges to help blend that. So there's no point putting any more paint in the middle where you don't want it. So I'm not using a whole lot of paint. Oops. So with this one, I'm just going to come in and feather my edges just to blend out that messiness that you kind of get when you're dry brushing. So you don't really have to add any more paint to your brush. Usually there'll be enough on your brush just to kind of blend those edges. And they don't have to be fully covered. It just kind of, you're just kind of feathering that into there. Okay. Okay, so if you want to kind of get an idea whether or not that's weight enough for you, grab your other piece, set that over top, and kind of see yes, no, do you want to add a little bit more, that kind of thing. So I think for the most part, remember, you have a stencil piece going here and your heart pieces are layering here. So you don't have a whole lot that is, you know, too much exposed. So okay. Just feather feathering out any of those new blobs that may have hit the edge when I did that last coat. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave it. I think I'm happy with it. And I'm just gonna let that dry. So this one, shortly, because we're doing the dry brushing, I'll be able to come back in here and there's one line in here. That's where we're gonna paint the stripe and yeah, and then we can do the stencil. But I don't like to do the stencils too soon, so obviously for you guys, I'll be coming back in a few minutes, but I'm gonna leave these dry for a good few hours at least, maybe 5 or 6, depending on what I'm doing. But because it's a white color, it dries faster underneath because it doesn't have so much pigment. When you're working with dark colors, like if we were stenciling over this one, then I would say, you know, give it to the next day. Whites dry way different, and so do all the lighter colors. So should be able to still do this one today. Yeah, so I'm just gonna leave everything right now dry, and if I had my pink right now too, I would do that little, or if I had the heart, I would do that little pink heart right now. But like I said, I left it at the store. So yeah, so I'll come back shortly and we will continue on. Okay, see you soon. One thing I was going to mention is that now I'm walking away from this for a little bit, and I want to make sure that these pieces don't stick in here. So it's always best to remove them and set them off to the side. I'm just doing mine up here so you can see, but so that way you know you can get all of those pieces out. And so just set them there. Keep your template off, obviously, because you'll need that to put them back together, but just gently remove this so you know you'll be good for later. There we go. Okay, so just a little tip. Okay, see you soon. Okay guys, I'm back here to do the hearts. So you can grab these and your sandpaper and give them a sand so they're nice and smooth. Okay, and so grab your stencils as well. So you're going to gently pull off the back. And it's best to do it on the surface here, like on a flat table, so that way you have more control. All right, so this black border is where you're going to line it up. So not over the black border. The black border actually will be peeled off once we get this on here. So you can see, hold on, let me just pull this back just a sec. Okay, so that dead space to the black border, that is what you are. That's the size of the heart. So you won't be covering any of the black on the border. I'm gonna flatten that. That's just a guide, so you can, so it's for me for cutting as well, so that way I can make sure we've got the right area. And so now when we peel this off, this outside black one will come with, but the rest of the black will stay. So it should look like that. We don't need that part. That way when we paint this, we can get that pink frame that you see in the picture. Okay, so that's the first one. And now the second one. Now, same thing, you are going to use that black border as your guide to line up to. Okay, pretty close, so just give it a press. And then gently peel off that again with the border coming with. Okay, so now we need to seal our stencil. So if we went and painted like our pink and our brown right now, then they would bleed. So because our base color is white, we are going to use a thin coat of white paint over top to seal the stencil, and then we will come back in. So grab your paint. I'm just gonna white my edges here. Okay, there we go. So I'm just gonna go grab a paper towel. Okay, so take your sponge that you had before, and you can just trim it off. So take a little of your paint. Some of it off. You want to keep some because you want it to be able to seal it. So just go in here and go over your stencil because you're really wanting to seal those edges. So make sure you really pounce well so you're getting all those edges, not just covering it up with paint. You want to really make sure that you are pressing hard enough that if it bleeds, it's bleeding underneath the stencil in the white. So if you feel like you need to do it twice, then do it twice once it dries, just to make sure you know that you've got it done really well, but one should be enough. Okay, so there's that one. Okay, so we'll let those dry, and in the meantime, we can come over here and we can sand this and get it ready to put together while we get those done. When I'm sanding, I'm just pulling a little on the edges so it wears it away. I like that. So okay, and you can sand the other side just to do it. Wipe the dust off. I'm just going to use my hand right now. And you can do these. And remember when you put these together, the one that's on the bottom is the one that's got the burn marks from the laser, so just make sure that that's the side that goes down. Now we can send this one. Okay, so normally I say clean out your lines when it's wet, but I didn't tell you to do that. So if your layers are thin enough, you usually can take an X-Acto knife and just come in here after and gently clean those out. Okay, so now that those are done, we're going to do that little brown band up at the top. So this one here. So take some tape. Come in here and line it up. You can even try and take your nail and push that tape in there so you really seal that line. Especially watch the sides here. I could fold the tape over on that one, which makes it easier, but I'm just gonna try and snip a little so I can push that down. Okay, so with this one, we're going to do the brown. So I'm just gonna do a few layers to build that color up. And you're going to do really light because we didn't seal it. But if you really pushed your nail on that really well and push down that edge, you should be fine. Whoops. Just do light. And I tend to overlap the sponge with the tape, so I'm not just pushing right at the sides. It's kind of overlapping that way. It just kind of helps to keep it out of underneath the tape. Okay, so that's the first coat, and I'm going to repeat that a few times. I'm just going to come and check on these. Okay, these are still a little cool, but when we come back, we're going to do pink on here, and then we're going to do pink on the outside and pink on the inside. So we just have to avoid getting anything on here. So you may want just to get a small brush for hereafter, and we'll even cut our sponge really small so that way we can get in there with a smaller sponge, and then after we'll get a smaller brush. But let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to give it a few more minutes, guys, and then I'll be right back. So I'm just going to cut this and be back in a few minutes, okay? Okay, so now we can do the pink on here. Okay. All right, grab your color, and now we can just do light layers. Actually, what I did is because it's easier for me to cover over a pink than it is to cover over white with the brown, so I'm actually going to cover the whole thing. I know it might sound silly, but I'm going to go over. Some bases work better for some colors, so the pink will work actually better underneath the brown than the white. So you're wanting to make sure the area where the pink is supposed to be seen is going on fairly even. We're not so worried about that second layer as much. And then the middle one, yes, of course. And then this one, we cover the whole thing. And if we had the other little heart that goes on the hat brim, then you could paint that now too. So now you can come back and do some more brown. So we'll give that a minute to dry and then we'll check it again, but I think it might be good at 2. I'm going to give these a few more minutes to dry, and then I'm going to come back and do it again. Most likely the pinks will need 3 light layers, but I'll take a peek here after the second one, and then we'll get working on putting it together. We'll have to do the dots on the hat as well, but yeah, so I'll see you shortly. Okay, so now I can do coat number 2. You don't do any sanding with this because you could lift up your stencil, so So 2 might be okay for me on this one. Just gonna take a peek. I'll let it dry first and take a peek for sure, but let that one dry, and then we'll come back to here. One more coat on here I think will be fine. Okay, and then I'm actually going to pull my tape off while it's wet. There's your line. So let that dry, and then we'll add the dots. Okay, so let's check this out. Okay, so I'll give that a few more minutes, and then I'll come back, and then if it's good, then we'll just take a little brush and we'll paint that brown area on there. Okay, so see you soon. Okay, so I'm gonna give this a peek. So that one's drying nicely, and I think 2 coats will be enough. This one is looking good. I'm just gonna give it another minute or so to dry. So this one I'm gonna come in here now, and we're gonna do the polka dots up at the top. I'm trying to remember how I did that. Okay, so you can either use like if you don't have one of these, which is an embossing tool, you can always use the back end of a brush. This is a paintbrush here. So this one's a bit bigger than the one I'm going to use. I'm going to use more of the tiny tip, but depending on some of your brushes, they might have a smaller end you can use. So that is an option if you don't have something like this. But what you'll just do is, get this side. So what you're just gonna do is just take it and create some random dots. I kind of had a pattern going. I re-dip after each one just so I get the same size dot each time. Because they're a bit more concentrated when you are making this, you're just going to have to give it a little bit of time to dry. There, so, and then that pink heart will sit up at the top there. So I'm just gonna give this some time, and even before assembly, so that will sit off to the side. Okay, so the next one is to come back and do the chocolate part. Just taking a peek at that. Okay, so this one again. I might do another coat on this one. This one seems okay for me, so do this one and the other one at the same time. So this one, I don't know where my brush is from our sets that we give you guys, so I just grabbed a small brush that I had here. Just take a little paint, and you're not doing the outside one and you're not doing the inside one, you're doing that middle line. And you're just gonna come in there. You can overlap on the stencil, but you want some good light so you can see where you are going. And try and keep your paint fairly even, it just will cover better for you. Once you get that first one on, it'll be a little easier, but just gonna stand up and do this. So once it's dried, take a really good look and make sure you've gone right to and a little bit over on that line. This one I'm going to do just once more because I see the odd light spot. So just a tiny drip. Okay, that one should be good now. So give that one a moment to dry. I'm just going to take a quick peek, make sure I can see that I went right to the edge. Yeah, so far that's so good. So we'll just give that a few minutes. I'm just going to wash my brush out just so it doesn't sit here and dry out. Yeah, so I'll be back in just a few minutes. So while that's waiting to dry, sorry guys, I'm starting to get a bit hoarse. I'm not feeling all that well. So this lines up at the sides here, and so you can always do these pieces while that's drying. So these are a little bit more fragile just because they're not so thick. Just make sure that lines up and put them in there. Even though it's curved here, just make sure it's it's straight with the line because it's supposed to be. So just in case your curves aren't lining up like they should, and then just give it a press. And just remember, when you're pulling that back off, you should be supporting where you're pulling, so that way it doesn't snap on you. Last one. Okay, give that a good press and you can pull that off. So that's done. So I can still tell that mine are just still a little wet. So we're going to give that just a little bit longer. And come back over here. I can see my brown is dry, so I'm going to do that coat. Okay, so that's two, and I'm still going to check it after And I might have to do 3, but it's looking pretty good. There might be the odd light spot, but so while we're waiting, this one is dry. So all you need to do is get like a toothpick or X-Acto knife and just try and grab that edge. And if you're careful, you should be able to pull it all off without it ripping. Just kind of give it a wiggle as you go from side to side. There. Whoops. So that one is done. And this one is done. So you can sand them, but I would give them a day before you sand them. You can still put them in there if you want to, but just it helps hold the color a bit longer, or a lot better. So I'll just put those down so I don't drop them in the paint, and I'll come back again in a few minutes. Okay, should be able to do the final coat. Just really make sure you're focusing on those edges. I'm sure your middles are pretty good, but you might be a bit more cautious as you do the edge part, so. Tip's good, coming around. Yeah, so mine looks like it's nicely covered. There we go. So we're just gonna let that dry, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll just peel off those other pieces, and then we should be able to put the whole thing together. Okay, well that one's drying. I'm gonna carefully put this together. They seem okay to me, so we're just gonna take that backing off. Now sometimes when we paint those edges, it makes it a little harder to get a start there, but take a knife if you have to, or just pick at it with your nails. If your adhesive wants to lift, then just gently place it down. I'd put your cover on this if you still have it. And just give that surface a rub. It's usually the bigger areas that tend to want to lift a little bit. There we go. Okay, so this is in offset a little so that it's going to come in a bit. So you just want to let it sit. Don't press it into place yet, but just evenly get your spacing all the way around. Make sure that it looks pretty even. And before you press it down too, you also want to make sure that these tacks are lining up with their holes. So actually, so instead of you guys having to punch holes through here, do this. You can take a tack and give it a push. Actually do that instead of the other way. And then try and find that one hole to line it up with. Ugh. Yes, there we go. So it should just fit in nicely. Okay, so now you can pivot with one and then try and find another one. They should line up. If you get one going, you should be able to get all the rest. So now I got that one and those are in place. So now you can kind of give that a press. When you're pushing these in, don't go in all the way. You want to leave it up just a little bit so you can get that string around it. And then you can always push on them later. Okay, so with your string, so how I did it, and then I think I got it figured out because I had to look at my diagram, but I left it at the store. I leave everything at the store. Okay, so what I think I did is I wrapped it around this one. And I went across here, down here, over there, up again here, down here, and up there. I think that's what I did. And then loop that around. And I'm just gonna check my picture, guys. But I'm sure that's what I did. Give me a second. It looks the same. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so what did I do here? Hold on. The only thing is I might wrap this around. So instead of it just sitting underneath there, I'm actually gonna take it, loop it around, and then come back up here. Just keeps that one a little bit more secure. Okay, so now there, I'm not gonna cut any tails off yet. I wanna make sure I didn't make it too tight that these don't fit back in. So this is pretty good, dry enough to do this. So I'm just gonna take my knife and just gently, not right at the edge, you wanna kind of pinch it in the middle, and then you're just gonna gently peel this off. Okay, that's layer one. And then same thing with that inner one. Guess I can't see, there we go. You're not kind of digging for it, you kind of sticking your knife on the sides, it kind of pushes it, so once you get it started, if you've even ripped it, then you should be able to get your tool underneath there, and then you can pull it off. There we go. Okay, so I'm just gonna set this in here. I mean, mine is dry, but it could use a little extra drying time. So I'm just gonna shove that in here, and then this one will layer in front. So if you did these pretty fresh, then I would say give this a little bit of time before you stack them permanently, because they might just stick together, and when you pull them apart, they might peel some of the paint off, but you just want to make sure this isn't too tight. So hold on, guys. There we go. So if you want, take this all apart. You can lay these out first and get them where you want. Oh, I think I took that one in that way. Put them where you want. And then you can loop it. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but this one, remember, loop it around so it's a bit more secure, and then bring it back up to the top and loop it around, because we're not tying any knots. So once they're in there, there you go. So you can do it either way, but this one, this way, if you do it this way, then you know you've got enough room. And then you can push down those tacks to secure that string. And then I did leave little tails on my sample, just so they weren't right close to the edge. And then you can glue these two together. And then if you had that other heart, then you would just stick it up there. Make glue. Okay, so set them together. Sure they're all lined up on the sides. If you want to, you can place this in here, but it should be fine just gluing it on its own, because I don't think it goes all the way down to the second layer. But I just want to find it where it's going to stand straight. There we go. There, and then it's done. So yeah, just missing the heart there. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was kind of a different type of Valentine's project, but sometimes Valentine's, you know, you want to be able to keep it out for a little bit longer than just Valentine's. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and we'll be back next month with another project. All right, thanks guys, bye.